How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my push to expert in the Open Great League, featuring my man Dubwool. And I have to say, guys, for any of you who are struggling in GBL right now, don't feel too bad, because this season, and really last season too, but this season especially, has been an absolute grind. There's just been such a stale meta in the open play right now, and the opponents that I've been facing are just so good. Like, these guys I've been facing, even from like pre-ELO, like from the first day even, I've been facing X-Legends, and I've had just so many intense battles all the way through Ace into Veteran, and I was just stuck around like 2500 for a long time. You may have seen my spicy triple legacy Sea King battles that have been floating around YouTube for the past like week. Zionic, Rise to the Occasion, and Purple Kyogre all feature them, so check those out if you haven't seen those already. I'll have a link to those in the description. But I was messing around with that team for 3-4 days and just jumping around between like 24 and 2600, and I just don't understand how everybody's so good. Like, I've hit Legend every season and never had really any difficulty till last season and this season. So whatever the reason, whether it's just the overall skill level of players is better, or there's something different with like the ELO matchmaking system, but for whatever reason, all I'm saying is don't feel bad if you're having trouble right now, because I have been having trouble and it's very frustrating. So that being said, I brought out this team that I had used last season to see if it was still good, and it is very good. Dubwool especially is a beast. The safe switch potential it has with its moves and its bulk is just incredible. It hits the steals, it hits the ghost, and it can pretty much hit everything else for neutral. So you're going to see Dubwool put in a ton of work on the safe switch, and then of course trusty Defenseoxys on the lead, very strong, very bulky, and then Diggersby obviously is a beast if you can keep it away from flyers. So that being said, let's get into these battles, and boy, there are some sweaty battles in here. Like, I was like literally standing up, pacing around my basement while I was playing these battles. So I'm getting nervous now just remembering how scary some of these battles are. So you guys are going to see some very high level plays and some very high level plays from the opponents as well. So let's get into these. And as you're going to see, we do lose quite a few leads as well. As you see, a Trevenant lead, very bad. We will be safe switching immediately into our Trevenant. Or let's just start over. As you see, we brought in the Dubwool there. Dubwool is our safe switch. I cannot speak. Good start to the video. And the cat is being very dramatic in the background as well. So as you see, they caught our payback on the Registeel there. I knew that there was a potential for a catch there, but I didn't want to risk not getting it off if the opponent overfarmed, so I threw right away. And the nice thing is, it takes 15 turns for them to get to a Focus Blast, and 15 for us to get to a payback. So we actually got to the second payback before they were able to throw a move. And since they let it go, as you see, I can then shield their move and then farm down. So by forcing them to make the first shielding decision, and the fact that they let it go, basically confirmed that I was going to be able to win back switch there, which I absolutely had to do, because Deoxys does not want to be matched up against the Trevenant. So we take switch back, we do farm down, and even though we're debuffed here, yeah, this payback forces a shield from the Trevenant, so very nice. This Seed Bomb will KO. Unfortunately, he didn't overfarm, so we weren't able to get to another one, but that's all right, because we now have switch advantage, and we have our Diggersby for this Trevenant, which is pretty nice matchup for Diggersby, because 2 Fire Punches will basically KO the Trevenant, especially since we did some double kick damage to it. As you see, 1 more would KO, but 2 Seed Bombs does not KO. And the opponent actually brings in a Shadow Charizard as their last mon. This is very scary. Even though Earthquake's resisted, we're going to throw it here instead of Fire Punch, and it actually does over half. Shadow Charizard is very glassy. We bring in the DD here, and basically we need to just tank this Blast Burn, and we should be able to just barely tank it, and we do. And we need to just get the Psycho Boost off right away and get this last shield, because I think if we can get this last shield, we should be able to sweep, but we have to hope that they can't farm down. If they farm us down here, this is going to be very bad, and they do throw a move, which is very nice. I think we would have gotten to a Psycho Boost there if they tried to commit to the full farm down. So they're going to take us out. They do have a Dragon Claw banked here. They're not quite going to be at 2 Blast Burns. He did overfarm slightly past 1, so he's at maybe 1.5 Blast Burns. So what we have to hope is that when this Charizard comes back in, that we can KO with 1 Mud Shot. So fortunately, we do CMP tie the Trevenant here to the Seed Bomb. even if he was at back-to-back, since it's a CMP tie, our Fire Punch will go through here and KO. And now we just have to hope that one Mudshot KOs, or we might get hit with a Blast Burn, and one does KO. I believe he was one away from the second Blast Burn there, so extremely close right off the bat. But as you see, Dubwool was able to get us back switch advantage, and that set up Diggersby for the sweep. So a Cofagrigus in the next battle, which is very bad as well. And they actually bring in a Bastiodon here, and this is decently good for us. Our whole team does pretty well against Bastiodon, but our charge moves are not going to be applying that much pressure to the Bastiodon. As you see, it really didn't do that much, but the double kicks are adding up here, and we actually win CMP again for the second payback here. And this is going to be very important, because as you see, they actually shield, and Bastiodon is just so bulky. I'm not sure if I shield that I'm able to take back switch there without double shielding, and I really don't want to double shield, so I decide actually here just to take my shield advantage. And since they brought in a steel type to a Dubwool, my read at this point here is that they probably have another steel type in the back, like a G-Fisk potentially. So that's why I just take the shield advantage there, thinking that Diggersby can probably sweep up in the back. So I will bring the Deoxys here. We'll take this move. We'll farm all the way down. We're not going to shield anything. We know they have a very healthy Cofagrigus, so no reason to shield the Deoxys. And I probably will build up to the Psycho Boost and throw it and then dip out into the Diggersby. So looks like that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I throw the Psycho Boost. It probably won't get a shield. It'll do about a third of the Cofagrigus' health. Not bad. And now we're going to put all our eggs in Diggersby's basket. And unfortunately, there's actually an Azumarill in the back, which is not what I was hoping to see. I was reading it was going to be double steel, because Trevenant double steel is pretty common. But this is going to be tricky now. And they actually shield our Earthquake as well. So very nice read by the opponent that I was probably going to be unlikely to bait on the first one, since Azu is very bulky. And they actually bait us back, or we didn't bait, but they bait us with the Play Rough, which is unfortunate. So they're probably running Play Rough and Hydro Pump, which is nice that they have to have a more expensive bait move, because Ice Beam would be very rough here. So that's something at least. But as you see, XL Azu is very bulky, and 2 Earthquakes will not KO, which is very unfortunate. So we're actually going to have to Fire Punch this thing after this Earthquake lands. So I don't think we're going to be able to build up much extra energy, or they will get to another move. So we're going to throw a Fire Punch right away, and that actually might have been a CMP tie, I'm not sure. But either way, we now have to take out this Cofagrigus, and the Cofagrigus does have some energy, and it will get to 2 Dark Pulses. So what you're going to see me do here is actually come in with the DD and catch a Dark Pulse, knowing a Dark Pulse wouldn't KO, but if I switch too early, he can Shadow Ball me and one-shot me. So I come in there. I think he actually undercharged the Dark Pulse too to try to farm down, but I'm actually able then to get to a Psycho Boost here, and our Diggersby is not in 1 Dark Pulse range. So he's at the back-to-back moves here, but this is a CMP tie, and after this Dark Pulse nearly doesn't KO us, as you see, we tank it. We now get the Fire Punch off because it's CMP. He's not going to even be able to use his second Dark Pulse. Will this KO? And it does, and we beat 2 Ghost leads in a row. So during the live battles, guys, I was literally like jumping up and down. Like, I was like, there's no way I should have just beat a Cofagrigus lead. So an Azu lead in the next battle. And Azu, as you see, all of our Mons have pretty neutral matchups. Diggersby probably has the worst matchup, but really if we're going to see an Azu, we like to see it against our DD, because DD is very tanky, and Thunderbolts, as you see with the counters, really do pretty much get it to half health. So that's pretty nice. And I actually do call that he's not going to bait on the first move, and we shield a Hydro Pump, and then they bring in a Sableye. And Diggersby is a very, very nice answer to Sableye. And that's one of the reasons why I do use Diggersby, because it does very well against the Steels, but unlike G-Fisk, it has very nice matchups against Ghosts. And they actually call that I'm baiting, and we land the EQ, which is massive. So now, even if this is a return, which it is, I can easily tank it, and I actually will get to a Fire Punch before they even get to a Foul Play. So right away, this is going to force them to shield a Fire Punch if they want to stay alive, and they just let it go, and Sableye goes down, and that's very nice for our DD. At this point, I was reading it was going to be double Ghosts in the back, but it's actually an Altaria, and as you see, all of our Mons have very bad Altaria matchups, so this is going to be a very close match. I'm not sure we're going to be able to pull this off. We can't stay and let this Altaria farm us down and get a huge energy lead. So I bring in the Dubwool here, and I'm just praying for a miracle at this point. We do have some extra energy on our Deoxys, and the Azu is low, but I'm honestly not sure how we're going to pull this up. In live time, guys, I was really strongly considering surrendering, but I always like to at least try to play it out. So I do throw the body slam. I'm building up a ton of energy. I know I'm going to need a ton of residual energy to threaten this Altaria, so I'm going to farm up a ton here. And I do end up throwing my body slam here just before I'm at 100 energy. So I'm very close to 2, and I need to start grabbing shields off this Altaria. It still has 2 shields, and we have all resisted fast moves as well, which is really rough. So we throw 1 body slam, and I do have some residual energy on Deoxys. So rather than throwing a body slam and letting myself get farmed down, I aggressively bring in the DD here, thinking that this will probably get the second shield. And it does get the second shield, so it's still very healthy, but my thinking here was I should just barely be outside of Moonblast range. Does the Moonblast KO, and we live the Moonblast. We survive the Dragon Breath, and we get to a Psycho Boost. So we're fighting it out. I'm still thinking this is pretty rough, because as you see, this is still not Body Slam range. If I bring in the double Body Slam it, the Altaria just farms down and then Sky Attacks my Diggersby. So I make a very, very risky play. I bring in the Diggersby knowing I'm going to get farmed down. I throw the Fire Punch, but this is very important because the Fire Punch will put the Altaria in Body Slam range from the double, which it previously was not in. And I was just praying that double wins CMP, and double wins CMP against the Altaria. So what a play there. I think I probably played that about as perfectly as I could. And we take down an Azu, an Altaria, and a Sableye with our team. So we got a Medicham lead here in the next battle, and this is pretty neutral. Deoxys does narrowly win the Zero Shield, so we're just going to stay in here and play the Zero Shield out, knowing that we can't really safe switch in our Dubwool, because Dubwool has a very bad matchup here. And unfortunately, I did see quite a few Medicham double flyer teams, and double flyers is quite difficult for this team, because as you see, all of our fast moves are going to be resisted by the flying type. But the nice thing is, most of the flyers that you see usually have at least 1 knockdown on the team. So if you're seeing double flyer, typically one of them is going to be knockdown. And all 3 of our mons do okay. Diggersby really doesn't do that good against knockdown, but Dubwool and Deoxys can both hit for neutral with our fighting type fast moves. So as you see, we're narrowly going to win the zeros. And I'm just praying it's not Medicham double flyer, which I saw quite a few times. And let's see what they come in with. Is it going to be Medicham double flyer? And it's a Charizard, a Shadow Charizard again. So I do get to my Psycho Boost here, which is nice. I'll be forcing a shield. And at this point, I'm just thinking, kind of have to bring in the double because Diggersby does not have a great Charizard matchup. But the nice thing is, Diggersby is just so ridiculously spammy. And you're about to see it go off in this battle. So we're going to respect the Blast Burn. They do not bait, which is nice. They do throw the nuke, so we shield the nuke, which is nice. And a knockdown comes in, which I was expecting at this point after I saw the Charizard. I actually did see that exact team quite a few times, the Medi Charizard knockdown. And you're about to see Dubwool spam out so many body slams, and the opponent is just not ready for this body slam spam. So this is the second body slam that we're now getting off the knockdown. They're just getting to a Sky Attack, and we're going to get to a third body slam before they even get to a second Sky Attack. So as you see, I'm throwing after 1 or 3 double kicks for correct timing to not allow them to sneak through a full move. And we're actually just going to farm down the knockdown. Absolutely incredible. We farm down the knockdown, and we get to a body slam before the Charizard takes us out. So we've now gotten 4 body slams off with our Dubwool, and we forced the last shield. And now that we forced the last shield, we can very comfortably win this game with Diggersby. They do have a lot of energy, but I know I'm just barely not in Shadow Blast Burn range. So I throw this Earthquake. He's now very, very low. And I'm like, you know what? He's at the back-to-back, but I'm going to call a bait here because I think that might be my win con. And I call it. And the opponent knows it's over, and he surrenders. So I think the safer play for him would have just been to go for the back-to-back Blast Burns. But we will capitalize on that mistake and take a very close win. So a Pelipper lead in the next battle. And as you see, our backline really does not want to see Pelipper. So we're going to be staying in here. And Thunderbolt does one-shot. And I actually over-farmed by 1. And they still catch my Thunderbolt. What do they catch it onto? A Registeel. So at the very least, it's neutral. But the opponent read me like a book there, recognizing that I was probably going to over-farm. And they actually caught. So this is the kind of opponents I've been facing, guys. Just some very, very high-level plays. So I bring in the Diggersby there after farming up a little bit, knowing that Diggersby has literally no play at all against Pelipper. And I recognize that after the counters I did with the DD in these mud shots, it should be in Earthquake range, and it is. So we don't have to use a shield. We get to a Fire Punch here, and now what I'm hoping is that the opponent doesn't try to farm down, because if he farms me down and comes out with 100 energy, I probably just lose this game. But fortunately, he actually does throw a Weather Ball here, so he still has a lot of extra energy because he banked a Hurricane before he caught my move. But I kind of still just have to bring in Deoxys because Dubwool cannot take this out with a Body Slam. It's not quite in Body Slam range. And I'm going to call that he's going to throw the Hurricane, maybe expecting me to think he's baiting since I have 2 shields. And I do shield the Hurricane, so that's very nice. And this time I actually waited. As you see, he almost caught another Thunderbolt there in his G-Fisk, but I held on to my energy. And now it's going to be up to Dubwool to take care of this G-Fisk. So I bring it in. I know that since I'm down a shield, the opponent's probably not going to bait, and he doesn't. He sends the Earthquake. I shield the Earthquake, so that's very nice. And now is he going to shield my payback here? He actually does. So what I'm recognizing is my Deoxys has a lot of energy. So if I can farm down, if I can get this thing low, farm down, I might be able to double Thunderbolt the Pelipper. So I'm thinking that might be my win con at this point. We'll have to see if he decides to shield his this payback here. Does he shield the payback? And he does. So now I'm realizing if I can just come in here and farm down, I can Thunderbolt the Pelipper. So I think the opponent should have saved their shield for the Pelipper. He takes out my Dubwool, but I have so much energy here. And now what I'm realizing is I don't even need to farm down. All I have to do is farm up to CMP, throw the Psycho Boost on CMP, take out the G-Fisk before he hits me with the Earthquake. And even though I'm double debuffed, a double super effective Thunderbolt will easily be taking out the Pelipper. And that's going to be a GG. And as you see there, we put in a ton of work with our Dubwool yet again. And we're getting into the next battle here, and we have a Lickitung. And this is actually a really neutral matchup. Even though we're hitting for super effective with counters, they are also hitting us for super effective. And they do outpace us if you think about the fact that Psycho Boost debuffs you. So if you're going to stay in that matchup, which I don't, you do want to be going for the Thunderbolts. But what I recognize there is I have 2 pretty decent responses to Lickitung in the back. So that's why I safe switch. And as you see, it's very important that I did safe switch, because if I don't safe switch out of there, and I say play out a very close win or loss with that Lickitung, then Medicham just sweeps my backline. So I actually commit to 2 paybacks, thinking the opponent may expect a Body Slam here, and we just straight up beat a Medicham with a Dubwool. Absolutely incredible. But we're not out of the woods yet, actually, because they come back in and farm us down with Lickitung, and now I'm kind of afraid that this might be a double fighter line, considering the fact that they just let their Medicham go down. So this is making me think that they must have a better, even better response to something like a Dubwool in the back if they just let their Medicham go. So we'll have to see what happens. I do, as you see, very comfortably tank 2 Power Whips because Diggersby is just an absolute beast. And we'll have to see if they decide to shield their Lickitung. We'll have to see if they decide to shield their Lickitung or if they just save both of their shields for their backmon. And as you're going to see, they have a Surf Fetched in the back. And as you know, Surf Fetched has access to Night Slash. So I do throw the Fire Punch, and they don't shield. So now I can't double Psycho Boost this thing. So what I'm realizing here is my only win con here is to farm down and throw nothing. So I'm going to commit to a full counter farm down, and they throw a Leaf Blade. So this gives me hope that they might not have Night Slash. There's no reason they wouldn't have thrown it if they did have it. So they're probably running Leaf Blade and Brave Bird. And we're not quite in Leaf Blade range. So they're going to have to commit to a Brave Bird. And they fall just short of the Brave Bird. And we actually force the opponent to lose with 2 shields there. So very, very good game. Wow, just so freaking crazy. These games are just like literally making me sweat just watching them over again. So Shadow Swamp in the next battle here. Shadow Swamp, we definitely don't want to see this on our Diggersby, so we kind of have to stay in. They are 1 short of the back-to-back, so I'm hoping that they respect a potential Psycho Boost, but they actually call the Thunderbolt. What a savage bait. So I actually bring in the Dubwool again, just because I wanted to preserve some health on the DD. And as you see, again, very good that I safe switch out of there, because if I just let my Deoxys go down, then this Medicham, again, just sweeps up my backline. So I do come in. I don't know if this opponent, I don't think he commits to the full farm down. Yeah, as you see, the opponent does not commit to the full farm down, so I don't reach a second payback. But I did commit to the second payback to force him to throw. Because if I throw the Body Slam there, it still doesn't KO, and I still have to use a move from Deoxys to take this out. So the Body Slam doesn't really help me there, and it would have allowed the opponent to farm down without throwing any moves. So by committing to the payback, I forced the Medi to throw, and now I can actually get to my move before he gets to 2 Ice Punches, and that allows me to not have to commit another shield on my Deoxys, or any shields for that matter, because I hadn't shielded yet. So I come in with my Diggersby there, and they actually let the Medicham get very low, and then they actually safe switch their Stunfisk into my Diggersby, and I was very surprised by this. And they don't even shield the Earthquake, so they're still holding on to 2 shields, maybe just knowing that Shadow Swampert has a lot of energy. But now what I'm realizing is I actually call a Rock Slide there too, which is savage. Now what I'm realizing is my Deoxys has a decent amount of health left, so I might just be able to fully commit to fast moves at this point. And they actually let their Stunfisk go down from the Fire Punch. And at this point, I'm like, no reason for me to throw a move at this. I can just come in with the Deoxys, farm up as much as I can here with these Mud Shots. As you see, Mud Shots adding up, and now like 1 counter is going to KO the Swampert. So I come in with the Deoxys, snipe with 1 counter, and then we snipe the Medicham with 1 counter, and the opponent loses with 2 shields. Getting into the next one here, we have Bastiodon on the lead. So Bastiodon's a pretty good matchup for our whole team, but what I recognize here is that I'm going to need to safe switch out of here at some point. Otherwise, if they have a fighter in the back and we let our Deoxys go down, then the fighter will just sweep our backline. So as you see, I'm not going to throw any energy here, knowing that it's really my counters that are doing the most damage. So I bank nearly 100 energy, safe switch in the double, and we lure out a Toxicroak. So this is exactly why you safe switch when you have an ABB style team, because this Toxicroak would absolutely destroy our Diggersby and our double if we just let the Deoxys go down. So the nice thing here is we actually are going to grab a shield, because Dubwool is so bulky. Even though they're committing to a full counter down, we can actually survive long enough to get to 2 Body Slams. So we grab a shield advantage. We get this thing fairly low as well. And I'm going to bring back in the Deoxys after waiting out my switch clock. And I'm going to click on the Thunderbolt right away, because I know the Toxicroak is basically at 2 moves. And if I don't throw right away, then he might get to another one before I get to my Thunderbolt. So I throw right away. Even though I lose CMP, it forces him to make this decision, and he actually decides to let his Toxicroak go down. And he brings in a Trevenant here, so I think we should be just fine. I actually am going to Psycho Boost and dip here, and then bank a Psycho Boost for later if I need it, but I don't think I'm going to need it. Because as you see, the Trevenant lets that go, and now all I need to do is get to 2 Fire Punches here. 1 to get the shield, and 1 should be KOing after the Fire Punches add up. And I think even if I shield this Seed Bomb here, I think he's just barely not going to get to another one. And if we can come out of this matchup with this much health, there is absolutely nothing that Bastiodon can do to a Diggersby with this much health. So we throw a Fire Punch. I believe he's 2 away. And yeah, we get to our next Fire Punch. And really, what you're about to see is actually one of my favorite things in all of GBL. And that is forcing a Bastiodon to Rage Quit. So GG to the opponent there. But as you see there, by safe switching out of there, we gave ourselves a very comfortable win there. A Stunfisk in this battle. I do typically like to do a very similar thing with the Bastiodon, where I stay in, I throw a bunch of counters and then switch out, but he actually safe switches into a Trevenant. So I build up to a Psycho Boost, I throw it, again I dip into my Diggersby, because Diggersby has a very nice Trevenant matchup, especially once they're at half health, because again all I need to do is get to 2 Fire Punches to KO this thing. So assuming that they were to give up 1 shield. If they don't give up a shield, I just straight up take the Trevenant out right now. And they actually do commit a shield. Probably going to try to get a shield back from me. But I know that I can tank this Seed Bomb. So I'm going to let this go, knowing that I still have a Deoxys and a Dubwool for their Stunfisk. And I'm just going to get my Fire Punch off right away. I don't want to overfarm and risk them getting to another Seed Bomb and forcing myself to shield. So I actually take Switch and Shield advantage there. And they have a Shadow Victory Bell in back. So this is very scary. I know I can come in with my Deoxys and get to a Psycho Boost before they get to a move. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And I do come in with the Deoxys here. I'm going to throw the Psycho Boost. And then I'm probably going to be dipping into Dubwool. And Dubwool's going to have to do what Dubwool does best. And that is be a goat. Even though I'm pretty sure it's like a ram or something. But anyway, they do get to their move before our Body Slam. Probably going to be an Acid Spray bait. But I kind of have to respect it, Unfortunately, it is an Acid Spray, and now they're going to bring back in the Stunfisk, and you're going to see me make a very, very risky play here. I'm throwing the Payback. They're shieldless, no reason to go for Body Slams, but I'm double debuffed, and they know that. So I'm expecting them to bait with a Rock Slide here, and I know Dubwool is super thick, and Dubwool can tank a Rock Slide, even double debuffed, and we tank it, and that's going to force them to throw again, or I would have gotten to another Payback, and I'm actually really glad that they throw here, because I can safely now just let this go, come in with the Deoxys, farm down the G-Fist. He's not even going to get to a Rock Slide, and now we have the Psycho Boost loaded for the Victory Bell. And that is going to be another GG against, looks like a variation of the Grass Hole team, but they had a Trevenant instead of a second Razor Leafer, so good game. And I think this is the last battle. There's been a little bit of lag in GBL as well lately. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. That's why there's been some like glitches before my battles. And as you see, they actually had a Guzzlord lead. So very, very cool. That was the only Guzzlord I saw in 60 battles. So they save switch into a Lantern, and we meet the Lantern with our Diggersby, because kind of similar to the Trevenant matchup, 2 moves does not KO, and we're double resisting the Spark, so we're not going to be in danger of being farmed down. And 1 Earthquake nearly one-shots. As you see, they actually either called a bait or just knew it was going to be an Earthquake, knowing they could live, but then I actually farmed them down. So we maintain even shields, and we have an Earthquake ready for their Guzzlord as it comes back in. And what you're going to see here, I didn't realize this, Guzzlord is really bulky for a Legendary Mon in the Great League. That thing is ridiculously thick. So there I bank a Fire Punch in case I need it for later. And I kind of pivot into the Guzzlord. Here I actually shield. I wasn't sure if Guzzlord had like a nuke move. I'm not really super familiar with it. I know it normally runs like Dragon Claw and Crunch, but I was afraid there of like a Draco Meteor or something. I don't even know if it can know that, but they actually have a Trevenant in the back. And that is why I banked the Fire Punch, because I have seen some Trevenant and Lantern backlines. So we have to keep that in mind, that we do have a Fire Punch loaded. And I did get the bait there, and now you know what? We're not messing around. We're going to go straight for the Payback on this next one and see if the opponent wants to commit their second shield. They're probably worried here about getting double baited. Do they respect the Payback? And they do not. And we one-shot the Trevenant to finish off a very, very close set of battles. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry, I feel like my commentary has kind of gone downhill through the course of the video. I am recording these battles at like, I don't know, 3 a.m. like I always do, but I'm just low on sleep. So thanks for sticking with me to the end. I really hope you guys enjoyed these battles because they were extremely intense. I was pacing around my basement and sweating and throwing my phone at times, yelling, celebrating at times. And boy, this run to Expert has probably been the toughest of my GBL career so far. So never fear, guys. You're not alone if you're struggling in the GBL right now. Whether it's Great League, Master League, Ultra League, I don't care. The competition has been fierce all across the board. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll get right into the outro here. Remember, if you have not subscribed, please do so, because the more Pokemon we can... I can't even say my outro correctly, but you guys know what I'm going to say. The more Pokemon... Let's try again. We're going to take a brief Zen moment of pausing here. The more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.